What's up everybody? It's been a long time since I made a video, especially on this channel. It's been so long. But you know what? I decided to mix things up this time around. I don't want to make the same old tech videos that people have been making for the longest time. I want to make something a little bit different. So I decided the best thing I can do is, well, not much. We're going to make a random AI today. We're going to make the most monstrous tic-tac-toe AI we can possibly make. And you know what? It's probably going to be terrible, to be honest, but it'll be fine. As long as we can't beat it, that's all that matters. This thing is going to bully children, hide your kids, hide your wives. This AI is going to be an absolute, I don't know, whatever. I can't even find the words. That's how cool it's going to be. Let's get started right now. Alright, so let's get started. Now initially I had planned on making this on the iPad itself because the iPad can actually create apps now. But I quickly understood that that's not happening. So yeah, let's get started on the UI on my Mac instead. Step 1 is getting Hello World to display, and as you can see it's right there, so we're pretty much good to go now. So our next step is to implement a board so that we can actually display things dynamically. So we don't want to just have things being shown as squares because we could have a bigger board if we wanted to. It's not necessarily a 3x3 tic-tac-toe, it could also be 5x5 or greater. So we're just going to create some classes for that, and we're going to use that class to then do some dynamic rectangles. And there it is, our work of art. Now let's just work on making these look a little bit less hideous now. Alright, I think that looks pretty good. Overall, not too bad. We can work with this. Eventually we'll make it look a bit nicer. With that out of the way, we need to start building some basic classes to store our information. This means stuff like players, adding onto the board, and most importantly, we're going to need a game class that will handle all our operations. After that, we're going to update our UI with this new classes, and hopefully we should be at a place where we'll be able to actually play the game. Oh my goodness, what have I done? Oh my goodness, so many errors absolutely everywhere. Definitely gonna be a little bit of work. I made an absolute mess of things, but let's fix all of this. Alright, let's give it another go. And it looks like it's working, but it only works for one piece, so let's make it so that it can actually switch pieces now. Alright, here goes. And that's looking a lot better. Alright, so we've got the basics done now. So let's move on. Okay, so now our job is to implement a system of checking for winners. Because we have all the basics done, but we need to be able to tell when the game is finished. We need to check horizontally, vertically, and then also diagonally. I don't think I'm necessarily doing it the right way, but brute forcing it by checking every single square is gonna always work, obviously. In this case, it seems like the easiest thing to do. I looked up some alternate methods, but they all seem a little either complicated or they just do what I'm doing, so I think we'll stick to this for now. I'm also gonna make it so that if it's like a 5x5 board, you're gonna have to get 5 in a row. So we're gonna keep it simple. Alright, let's give it a test now. Let's see how it goes. And that is just terrible. Player 2 always wins. Alright, let's fix that. This part of the code is mainly just trial and error because I just suck at coding it the first time, so I coded a bunch of different times. But we're also going to finish up the diagonal part of it as well, which is actually the easiest thing for sure. Alright, I picked a really large board, but let's see. And it works. Perfect. Time for lunch. Let's go, I'm hungry. Alright, back to the grind. let's check for draws now, because that's something that we need to also check and to make sure, because that technically does end the game. We're going to check our work again. I added some more text boxes to make sure if there is a draw or not. Draw really just checks if everything is filled out. So there it is. Okay, well, I made a winner already by accident. My bad. But as you can see, draw still works because it's true. So let's move on. We're just going to put the finishing touches on this now. So I'm pretty happy with where I left it off now. I actually have to go right now. So yeah, we'll pick up later. I do have a class later today at like 5 or something, which isn't too bad, but I probably won't be able to finish. Right now, it works, but what doesn't work, however, is the fact that it doesn't actually like play itself, so there's no AI involved. It's just a basic tic-tac-toe, which just about everyone can make. So to make it more fun, we're gonna have to build some cool AI and stuff. So yeah, we'll do that after. Anyway, gotta go now. Alright, so I made it here. I decided that this might be a good time to talk about our tic-tac-toe program and kind of talk about where we're going to take it. So pretty much the basics of this algorithm is definitely going to be Minimax, as it's called. It's where you have the algorithm trying to figure out what the best move each person can make is. And because of that, we're going to have to implement some special things to stop it from getting too crazy, because a 3x3 tic-tac-toe board only has so many moves you can make. So you can make it to the end, as in a terminal node as it's called, which means that you reach a point where the game stops pretty easily. However, in this case, we could go up to even 20x20, even higher. And because of that, we need to implement some things that stop it from getting too crazy. So we're going to have to do alpha beta pruning, and secondly, we're going to have to stop the nodes at a certain level. So that's going to be quite a bit of effort, but first step is to just create basic alpha beta, without alpha beta pruning, so just basic minimax, which means we're going to set up our node structure, we're going to set up our system of heuristics, which is telling the algorithm whether or not it's winning, and that should get us well on the way. Okay, so the first thing I did is some research to see where to even begin. I didn't really like the approach too much that I found, but instead what I did was I took some of the code and I split it up into separate functions. The idea is pretty simple. We're going to need an evaluation function that will tell us how good the situation is on the board for each player, and the rest of the program will be simulating moves for each player to figure out which move ends the program in the best possible way for the AI. That's where the Minimax algorithm gets its name. In one, we're trying to say what's the best possible move the AI can make. In the other one, we're trying to minimize, saying that what's the best possible move the other person can make. Alright, let's give this a run and see what happens. Okay, so it's, as you can see, it's placing things on the board automatically, and it just let me win. Well, okay, back to the drawing board. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is figure out a couple things. Number one, it's a little slow, so we're going to do that later. But number two, the biggest problem is that it's still kind of letting me win. So yeah, let's figure out something. Maybe it's the evaluation function. Now, I've had similar issues like this before, and I've had to debug it before because this was actually a class assignment for me. So, as you can see, I clearly have learned nothing because I'm having the same issue again. But let's hope that I can figure it out soon enough. Oh, I found the problem. I put the wrong function in the beginning. Well, that was stupid. Moving on, I think the AI can actually win now. Let's actually give it a try. Well, would you look at that, I'm a genius, and also the opposite at the same time. So the AI actually tries to win now, which is great. I still have some glitches on the UI, but for the most part, at least the AI works. It's just incredibly slow. So we're going to go ahead and add in the optimization, which is, of course, alpha beta pruning. So that means that we're going to have to add in code that stops it from checking the nodes that are unnecessary, Or basically, it doesn't have to check the parts of the tree that simply can never be better than the ones that we already found. It's a complicated process, but overall, it's going to make our code a lot faster. However, we're going to need a much better evaluation function in order to make it any good. And in the meantime, I also added some UI changes because I thought the whole 1 and 0s and 2s are kind of ugly. Okay, so I added some UI changes here. Let's give it a go. I also added some better calculations for the evaluation function. So ideally, the AI should be trying to get bigger streaks on the board. But interestingly enough, it kind of skips the values that skips the rows that I put my stuff on. So let's just see if it tries to stop itself from, or stop me from winning, assuming it'll ever run. It's so incredibly slow. Oh, okay. Okay, that's interesting. Oh. Okay, well, it's kind of working. It's just incredibly slow, so let's keep working on this. Now, as for alpha beta pruning, I used some of my old code because it was good. And I don't really want to relearn the logic all over again. I mean, the logic is pretty simple, but for the most part, I just want to stay on the road that's safe because this stuff can get real ugly real fast. I also moved to the Mac app instead of using the iPad because I wanted to make sure that I'm getting the full power of my computer and not just some sort of simulator. But as you can see, it's not the greatest process anyway. It just looks fine though, at least. And yeah. This is the moment of truth. Let's see the reveal. Okay, so I think that's gonna wrap it up for this project. It's been a while. It took me a real long time to get some of the stuff implemented, and it really kind of just burnt me out at this point. And it was kind of fun though. It was still really fun to see that my AI worked at the end. I mean, I can't beat it, but then again, it can't really beat me either. And that really is the problem with the design of the entire thing. See, my problem is that I designed it so that it's gonna be like regular old tic-tac-toe. So you're gonna always have to get n in a row, n being the size of the grid. So if you have a 3x3, you're gonna have to get 3 in a row. If you have 4x4, then you're gonna have to get 4 in a row. And the problem with that is that it's incredibly easy to stop, because if you get a whole row, you can stop it at any point in the middle or on the sides, which is super easy to do. Anytime there's one block inside that row is already over. So because of that, it's incredibly easy to stop. So I think the future would be to kind of work on this in a more complicated fashion, which would be something like an 8x8 board, let's say, right? And instead of it being 8 in a row, you'd want something like 4 in a row. Now there's doubled opportunities per row per column, which is going to be very, very cool. However, that's also incredibly difficult to implement because of the diagonals, and I just don't feel like I'm good enough of a coder to implement that. I mean, the winner checking is already rather slow. I don't think it's going to get any faster. Now, I also apologize for this weird lighting. I still can't figure out the lighting situation. I'm thinking about it actively, but I mean, I haven't done YouTube in the longest time. I don't want to destroy my room with lights everywhere. So, yeah, I'm going to need to think this through a little bit. But yeah, I think this is a good place to stop the video. It's been a long time since I made something, so this was a little different, and I really enjoyed it, and my tic-tac-toe AI literally won't let you win, so I would say that's a win for us and a loss for me, technically, still. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you subscribe down below, put any comments for things I can improve, and yeah, I will see you guys later. Thank you.